Hello, Hilltopper Nation. My name is Karen Powell Gonzalez, class of 2016, and I'm here today to talk to you guys about all the best practices and insight I've learned in my 5 years in working in the corporate world since graduation about asking for a raise. Now, asking for a raise can be an intimidating conversation. No question about that. But what I've found and things I've learned over these years is that the asking for a raise conversation is not a one and done conversation. It actually requires, to be successful, probably some months and weeks, even maybe years of proving your value to the organization and to your team. And so as you're starting your journey in your career, I want you guys to start thinking of yourself as a value proposition. Because when you're asking for a raise, you're essentially explaining to the people who take care of the money and the decisions in an organization that you have added so much value to your team or your organization over your tenure that you deserve to be compensated for all that you've contributed. Because one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten when thinking about pay and salary and asking for a raise is you aren't paid what you think you're worth. You're paid what others think you're worth. So in order to persuade and really show what you're worth to an organization, you have to be able to succinctly speak about that. And so like I said, I want you guys to think of yourselves as a value proposition. So when you're having your one-on-ones with your supervisor or manager, that's a great place to start building that value proposition. And what I mean by that is I want you to think about what makes you different. What do you bring to the organization that maybe no one else on your team or in your department bring to the table? Maybe what are your superpowers, if you think about it that way? And I also want you guys to think about your highlight reel. Right? As a contributor in an organization, you're going to do amazing things that we all will be so proud of. But I want you to put yourself in your manager or your supervisor's shoes. If they were in a one-on-one meeting with their boss, what's the thing that they're going to brag about to that VP or director that you've done? That's the experience or the accomplishment that you should absolutely highlight in this value proposition. So as you're having these conversations with your managers, be sure to bring up those facts, right? And really highlight maybe the before and after effects that you've also brought to the team. And what I mean by before and after is think about something that was done a certain way before you joined the team. Maybe it was a process that took 6 months from start to finish. But when you came in and you were able to innovate, you shortened that process time to be 4 weeks. That's time savings. That's impact to the organization. So in those one-on-ones, bring up facts like that to kind of prime your manager and or whoever your director, supervisor is, that you're really making solid, tangible contributions to the organization and team. And when you do that and you make that really clear and known, fast forward 6 months, a year, when you're having maybe your mid-year or end-of-year evaluations and you're ready to ask for a raise, you've already built the foundation for a business case to ask for that additional money. And so when you come into that conversation about asking for a raise, it's a really, really good idea to come in with a plan. And there's a difference between asking for a raise and demanding a raise. People who demand a raise often don't get one. And that's pretty obvious. But if you come into the conversation asking for a raise with a really strong case as to why you deserve that, aka how you've proved your worth, the conversation's a lot easier. So when you go into that conversation, think about a few things and really highlight, again, some of the concepts that you've built in your value proposition, right? How did you add value to the organization or the team in the past 6 months or a year, however long you've been evaluated? What's better because you were involved? And again, I want you to think about it from your director or your manager's perspective, because we're thinking business impact, and that's often how we correlate that to the larger organization. I also want you to come into that conversation with some job market data, whether that's based on your industry or the location of the world that you live in. It'll be helpful for you to know what to ask for if you know how your salary stacks up to other comparable jobs in the industry or location that you currently live. So that way, you know, when you ask for a certain percentage or a number that you'd like to get a raise in, and they come back with a different number, you kind of know in the ballpark in which you're falling. The other thing I want you to do when you're having this conversation is to be prepared to establish a follow-up date. So when you're asking for a raise, it's probably the case where your manager or your direct boss is not going to be able to give the final say. At least that's how it is in my organization. They have to go chat with finance and HR to get approval, and even their own boss. So when you're having this conversation about asking for a raise, make sure you establish a firm follow-up date as to when you can expect news on your raise. It's really easy for managers to, if they're not great, skimp out on that date. And I want you to be as proactive as possible and show that you're really dedicated to earning this extra money. So establish that follow-up date in that meeting as well. If you follow this practice of highlighting your value to the organization, priming your manager for the conversation later on you'll have about securing a raise, I'm certain that you'll have much success. And remember, if there's ever any questions you have, you've got the Great Hilltopper Network to leverage, so please reach out. And I'm so excited to hear about all the great success you will have in your careers. So go Big Red, and good luck.